9, 12, 10, 28, 2, 23.
This is the DSR podcast.
Goodbye.
There we go. Okay.
Hello and welcome to DSR's Words Matter. I'm David Rothkopf and I'm joined as always by Norm Ornstein. Today we have a special guest, our mutual friend, the one and only world's leading expert on the Supreme Court, all things judicial and legal, Dahlia Lithwick. How are you, Dahlia?
I'm sure we're going to talk about this, but it has been historically the case that when the Supreme Court term ends on the last week of June, those of us who cover the courts get a little bit of a break. But between the shadow docket and Emil Boove and the will he won't he Jerome Powell, which may or may not be permissible in the lights of the court, like I know everybody's tired and grumpy, but like this is supposed to be my tired and grumpy free zone, and yet here I am in July still covering the Supreme Court.
We feel for you, Dahlia, don't we, Norm? Don't we feel for Dahlia?
We certainly do. And, but, let's face it, we're all going through a period of maximum Spilkus. And it's only getting worse by the day, by the hour.
Yeah, hi, welcome to DSR's new podcast, Maximum Spilkus.
I like it.
I think, I don't know if the rest of the world would get it, but if you listen long enough, you'll get it. Well, why don't we start with where you just started a moment ago, because the big news of today, the day we're recording this, which is a Thursday in July, is the latest dust up in the Senate over the nomination of Emil Boove to join the federal judiciary in a lifetime appointment. This is Trump's former lawyer, who was described by Senator Sheldon Whitehouse earlier today as a bad guy. And yet, seems like he's going to end up on the court because the Republicans literally, to use an old saying and twist it a bit, would confirm a ham sandwich for the court if nominated by Donald Trump. What do you think of all the goings on today, Dahlia?
I mean, if you had to like build in an underground lair a person who was less fit by temperament to be a lifetime appointed Article 3 judge, like I'm in full Mr. Potato Head with the ears and the nose and the glass. Like I cannot imagine constructing somebody who has, with every breath, with every word, with every action, shown himself to be unfit. And like you can talk about, when he was a prosecutor and got tagged for being overzealous and a bully. You can talk about the Trump defense. You can talk about, the very credible claim by Erez Ruveni, former DOJ lawyer, that this guy literally sat in a room and said to, his underlings at the Justice Department, like, we don't care what the courts say. Go ahead and defy the courts. Jan 6 denialist. I mean, there's nothing he hasn't done. Norm, you will remind me what I've forgotten. Part of the cabal of dismissing January 6 prosecutor. Like, there's nothing this guy has done that hasn't signaled, I answer only to Donald Trump and the Constitution doesn't matter to me. And the fact that Senate Republicans do not care, and that you get, hundreds of people to sign on to letters saying like this guy is unfit, and they do not care. I mean, what frightens me is we used to have a conversation a year ago about the like Matthew Kaczmaryks and the Aileen Cannons as like the next nominees for the court. This guy makes them look like small ball. Like this guy is setting a new bar for what you would have to be a Trump appointee. And it's just loyalty to Trump all the way down. And the Constitution is in flames all around, and the Senate Republicans don't care.
So, Norm, today there was a hearing, and typically, if the Senate followed the rules of the Judiciary Committee, there would have been a discussion and a vote on whether to have a vote, and there wasn't. And this got the Democrats very up and into a swivet, and they walked out. But I remember Republicans putting holds on nominations and doing things like that. Is walking out and in a swivet the most the Dems could have done?
I don't quite understand why Democrats in the Senate are not going to DEFCON 1 over all of this. And, there's something else, a couple of other things to point out. Charles Grassley, the chair of the Judiciary Committee, the 90-something who, let's remind our viewers and listeners, is third in line to the presidency, as Donald Trump's swollen ankles, misfigured hand, and other elements suggest that we need to pay attention to the line of succession. And if you think about J.D. Vance followed by Mike Johnson, whose every word, including a and the, is a lie, followed by Chuck Grassley, who is non-compos mentis, but compos mentis enough to break every rule and do everything that Donald Trump wants, who silenced the Democrats, and all they can do is walk out. But I want to remind us of one other thing that happened today. The police officer who shot up an apartment building as other cops went into an apartment and killed Breonna Taylor in cold blood, who was convicted of his reckless behavior. And the Justice Department just recommended a sentence of 1 day, which is another sign, as Emil Bove is a sign, that we make the law here. And the law has nothing to do with it. We are going to reward and protect thugs who do what we want, and we are going to punish those who do what we don't like. If this is not a series of signs of a police state, and the Senate Republicans, we had this reconciliation, this rescission package passed the Senate with 51 votes. 2 Republicans voted against, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins. Never refer to them as moderates. They only vote that way when the votes don't matter. Tom Tillis, who we thought had finally gotten a backbone when he announced he was going to retire, voted for that package. He has said he will never support anybody who was a January 6th apologist. We'll see how he votes on Emil Boove when that hits the Senate floor. And it wouldn't surprise me that we get Collins, Murkowski, and Tillis who vote no, knowing that it'll be a 50-50 vote so that J.D. Vance can break the tie. We are in a nightmare that is getting more and more troubling by the minute.
Well, that's cheerful, Norm. Thanks a lot for that tour of the waterfront. Dahlia, let me give you an opportunity to pick up on what Norm was commenting on regarding the 1-day sentence recommendation for this clear, violation of any kind of norms of policing behavior. Because it's related to a broader kind of set of messages being sent by the Justice Department, which is we're a police state. We have a Gestapo. It's got a budget bigger than the Marine Corps. It wears masks. It doesn't identify itself. It doesn't follow the law. It doesn't go through due process. And we're going to do everything in our power to let cops who are acting in the name of the president do whatever they want. And on top of that, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, who I don't see mentioned in your book, Lady Justice, because, I don't think she figures in that, has said The president gets to decide what's the law. So you take these things together, and we've crossed the line in my book. But maybe you think I'm overreacting.
I have never, in all of my time podcasting with you, claimed you were overreacting, and sometimes have thought you were underreacting. And I don't disagree with anything you're saying. Look, I think what Norm is saying, which is so singularly tragic, is that there are two imperatives right now. And one out of the Justice Department, one is to wreak vengeance on anyone, right? Including Jim Comey's daughter, including Adam Schiff, right? There is an imperative to up to and including arresting and detaining elected officials, up to seizing and tackling a senator, right? Senator Padilla. Vengeance on anyone who speaks out, vengeance on anyone who sticks out their neck, vengeance on anyone who has the temerity to criticize. And then the opposite and equally chilling abuse of the instrumentalities of the Justice Department and the police department is to reward loyalty. And those are the two imperatives. And that's why January 6ers are pardoned. And that's why this sentence is a joke. And that's why someone like Emil Bove, who has no business being at the Justice Department, much less having a lifetime appointment to an appeals court, is being rewarded. And like the only way to think about this, it's the way I've been thinking about it since the beginning of Trump 2.0. This is an influence racket. Like this is you either curry favor with these people and get what you want, or you don't give them what they want and you are, run down like a dog. And those are the choices. And this is how the mob works. And this is how authoritarianism works. And we now have, and this is thanks to the big, beautiful bill, ICE is going to be the biggest, best funded machine of thugs, masked thugs, as you say, that we have ever known. And the other thing that I think is just poisoning this moment, and you've both alluded to it, but I think it's really important. Once you take the military, right? Think of those speeches that Donald Trump gave, to cadets, where they had to cull the people who were the Trump fans and then, sell merch to them. And
also they called the fatties. They didn't.
Fatties, apparently, right?
Yeah,
He didn't want anyone attractive. Think about what is happening with the Justice Department and the mass resignation, massive numbers of DOJ lawyers who are resigning. What we are seeing is literally a sorting process wherein every single, right, ICE agents who are not loyal don't get rewarded. Those who are loyal get rewarded. Police who are not loyal, constitutional sheriffs, judges, this is all the way down. And so what you have is a system that isn't simply rewarding the loyalists and really aggressively with the full muscle of the legal system going after the dissenters, but it's so confusing. Who is a soldier? Who is a police officer? Who is a Marine? Who is a National Guardsman? Who does the Border Patrol answer to? Who does ICE answer to? Who does your local beat cop answer to? And the answer to all those questions, and this goes to the Pam Bondi point, is whoever Trump says. Whatever Trump says is the law, is the law. And this conflation of law enforcement to be all law enforcement and law to be all law is terrifying. Again, this is just textbook authoritarian play. So it's not just an influence racket, and that makes me totally unsurprised that the Tom Tillises and that people are terrified. But it's also an influence racket in which nobody knows from 1 minute to the other what probable cause is or reasonable suspicion is, because it's being made up as you go along.
So Norm, just picking up on that, Dahlia mentioned Maureen Comey. and she is the daughter of James Comey. James Comey, to me, is his case is one of the more disturbing ones in the
Mhm.
recent history of this police state, because he and John Brennan from the CIA have both been, and it's been announced they are being investigated. They've committed no crimes. They've simply opponents of the regime, and the regime is saying we're going to start investigating our opponents. His daughter was fired without explanation after having an incredibly distinguished career at the Southern District of New York as a prosecutor, being the prosecutor who just handled the Sean Combs case, but before that, being the prosecutor who handled. And we're 15 minutes and 35 seconds into this, and I have not said the word that has been on every show, but she handled the Jeffrey Epstein case, which strikes me as peculiar just at the moment that MAGA is calling out for, transparency in Jeffrey Epstein. The person who handled the case got canned. So you may comment on anything, and if you want to talk about Jeffrey Epstein, go right ahead.
So first, let me say my sympathy for Jim Comey is limited, because there's lots of reasons to believe that we wouldn't be in this mess from 2016 on if it weren't for Jim Comey, who misused his position back then as the head of the FBI and did as much or more to get Donald Trump elected as anybody. But that aside, his daughter has been a model prosecutor. And, it's worth mentioning Julie K. Brown of the Miami Herald did some of the only good reporting on the Jeffrey Epstein case going back in time. And what we know is that thanks to Alex Acosta, who was a prosecutor at the time, to Alan Dershowitz, who was one of Epstein's lawyers, and others, they whitewashed the case and basically let him not only avoid the characterization as a sex offender at the time that he should have gotten, but they let him, under a kind of house arrest, still have young women come in to molest them while he was, under arrest at the time. And of course, Alex Acosta was rewarded with a cabinet position in the first Trump administration. Uh, the only one who did the right thing was Maureen Comey. And like many others, she's getting attention now in part because she is the daughter of Jim Comey. We should add that even before they announced that they might bring charges against Comey and Brennan, and in my reaction to that was, please do, because then they can interview witnesses, they can get information that will reinforce the reality that there was Russian collusion. But that aside, there are just so many prosecutors who have been fired for doing the right thing. They have turned the Civil Rights Division into the Civil Wrongs Decision. They've turned the voting rights decision section at the Justice Department into the voter suppression section. And I would just add that Pam Bondi, I never, ever cease to mention this when the opportunity arises. As Attorney General in Florida, and Florida was one of the two states, along with Texas, where there were more people abused by the Trump University scam. And her office as Attorney General unanimously recommended prosecuting Trump University. Pam Bondi squashed that investigation and got a $25,000 illegal bribe/campaign contribution from Donald Trump. Illegal because it was done through his charitable foundation, subsequently disbanded for its own chicanery. And Pam Bondi has always been a lick spittle to Donald Trump, who will do anything that he wants, which is why she was put in this position. And she has abused and misused the Justice Department, and that will only continue. Now, It's also worth mentioning that the other important attorney general at the time was the Texas one, Greg Abbott, who did exactly the same thing while he was running for governor. Trump gave him a $35,000 campaign contribution. My comment at the time was, see, women still can't get equal pay for equal work. But we're dealing with a group of the worst people in America, some of the worst people in the world, and they are all part of the Donald Trump band.
There's a lot more to talk about here, and we're going to talk about it. But I do want to say to everybody that the first part of our podcasts are always public, and then there's a bit that is for our members only. And so we're going to move over into that bit. So if you're in the general public and you're not a member, thanks for listening. Hope you found this interesting and hope it motivates you to go to the dsrnetwork.com, click on membership and become a member. It's not much, the price of a latte per month. And if you are a member, stand by.